She welcomed me inside, but it was a trap. It's strange, the things you remember. I remember the smell of her perfume the first time we met. Light, floral, comforting. I remember the way her voice made everything seem a little softer, the way her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket in the middle of a storm. And maybe that's why I didn't notice the cold underneath it all. Or maybe I didn't want to. We met in what felt like a perfect moment. I was searching, though I wouldn't have admitted it at the time. Searching for safety, searching for something to anchor myself to. I had just come out of a season where everything seemed to fall apart. Family, friendships, my sense of who I was. And then she appeared, with her open arms and calming words, with her ability to make you feel seen in a way that made the rest of the world disappear. It's easy to believe in someone who makes you feel special. It's easy to confuse attention with care. She listened when I spoke, really listened. Not like others, who nodded distractedly, eyes flitting to their phones, minds elsewhere. No, she looked at me, held eye contact, laughed at the right moments, nodded at the sad parts. She asked questions no one had ever asked me before. What breaks your heart? What do you wish people understood about you? I mistook her interest for intimacy. I mistook her curiosity for love. I mistook her trap for home. She welcomed me inside. Her house was warm, not just in temperature, but in atmosphere. Books stacked haphazardly. Candles always burning. Art on the walls that made me feel something I couldn't name. The kind of home you dream of finding when you've spent too long feeling like a guest in your own life. She told me I could stay whenever I wanted, that I didn't need to knock, that I belonged. I believed her. At first, everything was golden. She praised me constantly. You're so wise, she said. You have an old soul. You're not like the others. I glowed under her approval, like a flower desperate for sunlight. I was starving, and she fed me pieces of what felt like love. Compliments. Inside jokes. Shared secrets. And slowly, I gave her everything. My stories. My fears. My past. My loyalty. She didn't even have to ask. I gave it freely, gladly. I was just so grateful someone wanted me. She made me feel safe. Important. Chosen. And I didn't see that it was the beginning of a game she'd played before. The shift was so slow I almost missed it. It started with the little things. A sigh when I mentioned hanging out with a friend. A lingering pause when I said I was going to visit family. She never forbade. Never scolded. That wasn't her style. She just made me feel like I had done something wrong. A slight tilt of the head. A glance that said, really? Them again? And I found myself changing plans. Canceling visits. Pulling away from people who had known me for years. All because her silences hurt more than their absence. She told me they didn't understand me. That they took me for granted. That I was finally with someone who saw my true worth. I believed her. She was the only one who mattered after all. She had become my compass. My mirror. My whole damn sky. When she was pleased with me, I felt alive. When she wasn't, I felt like I was suffocating. I didn't see that she was building a cage and calling it sanctuary. I didn't realize that her approval was conditional, fragile, and tied to my obedience. And it wasn't just about who I spent time with. It was everything. How I dressed. What I posted. How I laughed. The music I liked. She never demanded I change. She just dropped little remarks that made me want to. That shirt's a little loud, isn't it? You still listen to that band? You don't really believe that, do you? And each time I adjusted, thinking I was evolving. Thinking she was helping me become a better version of myself. But the truth is I wasn't becoming. I was disappearing. The more I pleased her, the more I lost myself. And still I stayed. Because she'd remind me of the beginning. She'd reel me back in with softness. A gentle text after days of coldness. A memory shared. A night wrapped in old jokes and new promises. She'd say, "You're my favorite person in the world." And I'd believe it, even as my stomach twisted. I started walking on eggshells, monitoring every word, every reaction, trying to avoid the shift, the way her eyes would darken, the way her affection would vanish like a curtain falling. I never knew what would trigger it. A look, a pause too long before answering, a laugh that came too easily around someone else. I became so small and so careful. I started apologizing for things I didn't do, for things I might have done, for things I couldn't remember. She had a way of making me feel guilty just for being. And I was so desperate to keep the peace, I would do anything to win her warmth back. Anything to hear her say she was proud of me, that I was still her favorite, that I hadn't messed it up. It wasn't until later, much later, that I realized she never really loved me. She loved control. She loved power. She loved the version of me that worshipped her, that needed her, that revolved around her moods like the moon around the earth. The irony? She needed me to need her. That was the whole trick. Her power only worked if I believed I had none. And I did. I believed I was broken, that I was too sensitive, too emotional, too clingy. She told me so, often enough. "You're lucky I put up with this," she'd say, after making me cry. "Anyone else would have left by now." She painted herself as my savior, as the one person willing to love me despite how exhausting I was. And I believed her. Of course I did. She had gotten inside my head so quietly, so completely, that I couldn't tell her voice from mine anymore. There were days when I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. I looked tired, hollow. There was a weight behind my eyes I couldn't explain. I stopped doing the things I loved, stopped reaching out to friends. I didn't have the energy to explain why I kept disappearing. And the worst part? I missed her when she was gone. Even when I knew how much she hurt me. Even when I had journaled every manipulation, every lie, every twisted mind game. I still wanted her back. I still waited for the phone to buzz, for the apology to come. I would have forgiven her in an instant. I wanted her to tell me it had all been a misunderstanding, that she did love me, that it wasn't a trap, that I hadn't been so stupid to fall for it. Because that's what it felt like. Stupidity. Shame. How could I have let this happen? How could I have not seen? But abuse doesn't always look like bruises. It looks like affection laced with fear. It sounds like laughter followed by silence. It feels like love that leaves you sick. And she was so good at it. I still don't know if it was calculated or instinct. If she meant to hurt me, or if she just didn't care who got hurt along the way. Maybe it doesn't matter. The damage was done either way. The day I left wasn't heroic. It wasn't loud. I didn't scream. I didn't demand answers. I just stopped answering. I went silent. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I finally realized I deserved peace. I cried for weeks. I shook. I doubted myself constantly. I wrote letters I never sent. I played back every memory, wondering if I had imagined it all. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. Deep down, I had always known. And still, there are days when I miss her. I don't miss the pain. But I miss the illusion. The way she made me feel in the beginning. The way she said my name. The way I believed, for a moment, that I had finally found someone who understood me. But maybe that's the hardest part of all, accepting that the person who felt like home was actually the storm. That the love I thought would save me was the thing I needed saving from. That I walked willingly into the trap because it didn't look like a trap. It looked like kindness. It looked like belonging. It looked like love. And that's what makes it so hard to leave. But I did. And maybe that's enough for now.